Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we are taking a walk through one of my bucket list malls that I finally got to visit in May 2024. This incredible vintage mall holds a ton of 1970s character, as well as some 90s aesthetics and a wonderful neon food court. So welcome to the Berkshire Mall in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, just outside of Reading. Join me for a walk through this vintage time capsule that very quickly became one of my favorite malls, and let's see what it holds in store for us during my visit in May 2024. History would begin in the late 1960s, when planning would begin for one of eastern Pennsylvania's first regional enclosed malls to be built outside of Philadelphia. Sears announced that they would commit to being a major anchor for this mall in 1967, relocating their operations from their existing store they had in nearby Shillington that opened a decade prior. With the Goodman Company behind the project, construction would officially begin for the Berkshire Mall in 1968. After over a year of construction, Berkshire Mall would officially open its doors on February 10, 1970. It would feature Sears, Litt Brothers, and Wyomissing as its original anchors. Berkshire Mall would begin with great success, and it would become the new dominant retail center for the Reading, Pennsylvania region. In its early years, the center court of the mall would feature a massive fountain, as well as a Victorian-style mini mall on the partial second floor called Lamppost Lane, which would feature a small restaurant, a craft shop, and a couple other small businesses. In 1977, Litt Brothers would be converted to Pomeroy's, and the 1980s would continue to see many more changes happen at Berkshire Mall. 1985 would see the Goodman Company sell the mall to Equitable Real Estate Management, and a couple years later, Pomeroy's would be converted to Bon Ton, and in 1989, Lamppost Lane would be replaced with the Terrace Cafe food court that remains today. Throughout all this, Berkshire Mall would continue to see success. Even after the opening of the Fairgrounds Square Mall in Muhlenberg Township, Berkshire Mall would continue to see shoppers throughout its halls. The 1990s would continue to see changes. 1995 would see the Wyomissing get converted to Hecht's, which would last 1 year before being converted to a Strawbridge's in 1996. However, Strawbridge's would close their doors around the turn of the century, but 2002 would see their space get replaced by Boscov's, whom relocated from their existing store they had in Sinking Spring. And that same year, the mall would be sold to Allied Properties. Unfortunately, Berkshire Mall would end up suffering 2 fires within the span of a year. On November 2nd, 2009, a fire broke out in a display window of the Victoria's Secret. Thankfully, the sprinkler system would put out the fire, and only the store itself along with a nearby hallway would suffer smoke and water damage. And thankfully, no one would be injured from this fire. However, on April 14, 2010, another fire would happen. This time, it was in the Boscov store, and a worker would suffer severe burns to the face. Thankfully, the worker would be airlifted to the hospital for treatment, and firefighters would have this fire controlled within 30 minutes. By 2011, the mall itself would seek international fame, when a security camera video would start going around of a woman who was visibly distracted on her phone, trip on the fountain by Boscov's, and fall directly into the fountain. A security guard would rip the footage and post it on YouTube not too long after. Once the video went viral, the security guard would be fired. On May 22, 2014, Berkshire Mall was hit by a severe spring thunderstorm. Golf ball-sized hail would rip through the mall's ceiling, shattering skylights and causing interior damage to the mall, with glass and debris covering walkways, plants, and the fountain in the Sears court. This would also leave cars with major dents and smashed windshields. Thankfully, repairs would be made to the mall, and operations would continue as normal. Throughout all of this, Berkshire Mall would continue to see success as well as high occupancy. It would beat out the Fairgrounds Square Mall as being the dominant retail center for the Reading, Pennsylvania region. However, in April 2018, Bon Ton would file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy and close all of their stores, including the Berkshire Mall location. The store would close in August 2018. And a couple months later, in November 2018, Sears would announce their closure of their Berkshire Mall location, and the store would close by January 2019. This would leave Boscov's as the mall's sole anchor store, and shortly after the mall reopened from the COVID lockdown in 2020, Allied Properties would sell the Berkshire Mall to Namdar Realty Group. November 2022 would see the former Bon Ton building be condemned by the township fire marshal due to a partially collapsing roof along with other structural issues. And this leads us to the current elephant in the room, the sinkhole problem. Around November 2024, major sinkholes would begin to form in the mall parking lot. This would result in the majority of the parking lot being fenced off, and only certain mall entrances would be accessible to the public. This leads us to where we are today. Whilst the mall itself is doing rather decent for a mall owned by Namdar, with occupancy still sitting relatively high inside, the parking lot seems to have a long road ahead to repair thanks to the sinkholes. But whatever happens, I'm hoping for the best in the future of the Berkshire Mall. Now, let's head up this elevator and take a look at one of the coolest mall food courts I've ever seen. Holy moly.
Berkshire Mall was a real delight to visit. It was a mall I was looking forward to visiting for some time, and it didn't disappoint. This mall was pretty busy when we visited, and it was even difficult to film at some points. This mall had lots of vintage charm and earth tones, and the food court complemented it with pastels and turquoise neon lights, which was my favorite part. The only downside of this mall was that some of the fountains were off when we visited. This mall was definitely one of my top malls that I've ever visited.
As I stated in the beginning of the video, Berkshire Mall was one of my bucket list malls for a long time, and I'm sure you could see why. Aesthetically, this mall is absolutely incredible. From the awesome neon food court with the green neons and the wooden handrails with the teal accents, to the vintage corridors throughout the mall with the hexagon tiles and the awesome skylights and planters, as well as those benches they built onto the pillars, as well as the incredible fountains, even though the one by the Sears was drained during our visit, and even just the color scheme of this mall as a whole. Berkshire Mall did not disappoint whatsoever. On top of everything else, the inline occupancy here is still relatively high, which is really great to see, especially since 2 of the 3 anchors are vacant. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with this mall that needs to be addressed is getting one of those anchors filled. But with Namdar Realty at the helm of ownership, who knows if that will ever happen. Now, even though that is a major problem that this mall is facing, this mall is currently facing a larger issue that needs to be addressed first and foremost. Those sinkholes are a major safety concern, and they need to be addressed as soon as possible. Other than that, I don't really have much else to say. Berkshire Mall was absolutely one of my favorite malls I ever visited, and I'm glad we were able to stop here on my trip to Maryland in May 2024. I do wish I was able to spend a little more time in here, as we got here around a half hour before the mall closed for the night, but nevertheless, I'm still glad I was able to see this mall regardless. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you all for watching my video tour of the Berkshire Mall in Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like, as it greatly helps support the channel. And whilst you're at it, be sure to click that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more mall videos like this to be released to more viewers like you. I have a lot more mall content coming to the channel very soon, with a lot more malls you're not going to want to miss, especially from this Maryland trip. So be sure to subscribe for more malls to come your way. I also have an Instagram linked in the description with sneak peeks of future videos coming to the channel. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, stay awesome, and have a blessed day. I will see you all in my next video.